Hello, welcome back to Oracle DBA tutorial. In this tutorial, we are going to introduce you a couple of more storage parameters. So let's take a look, revise what we learned from our, the file system that we discussed in the very first videos in the server architecture class. That whenever a table is created, whenever we're going to create a table T, and this table T, to store the data, Oracle is going to create a segment. Okay, so this is the segment, and we told that segment consists of multiple extents. So segment is consist of multiple extents. So let's say extents 1 and extent 2, and then each of this extent is going to be consist of multiple consecutive data blocks, right? So these are data blocks that is going to consist of this that is going to this extent is going to have, right? So, and data block is basically the the lowest logical unit where actually we are going to have the data store, like this is row 1, row 2, row 3 of the table T. So now this obvious question that you can ask, like how many extents that is going to have. Okay, so let's say table T will have a one segment, so each table will have one segment. Okay, but what is the size of that segment? Okay, so how many extents that table will have, and then whenever that extent is going to fill, what is the next extent? Okay, and up to how much it can go, like, so what is the max size of this segment? So there are two parameters. They tell you whenever you're going to start this thing called mean extent and max extent. So these two parameters will tell me how many extents that is going to be there whenever we're going to create this table. Let's say the mean extent is 5. That means whenever I'm going to create this table, 5 extents are going to be there. But remember, in starting from Oracle 11g, this has been changed. Like, segment will be there, but the space will not be allocated. That is called deferred segment. So deferred segment features will allow you, whenever you're going to create a table, the segment will be there, but the space will not be allocated. But whenever you are going to insert for the first time, so there is a time when we are going to have some extent actually allocated. But forget about those things right now about defer segment. But assuming that we are creating a table and inserting some data, then mean extent parameter is going to tell how many number of extents I will have. If it is going to 5, that means I have E1, E2, E3, E4, E5. So these 5 extents are to be there to start with. Now the next question is that, okay, this is going to give me 5 extent, but what is the size of this each extents? Okay, and that parameter is called initial. If you say initial is 1 MB, so in this case we are going to have 5 MB space is allocated. Okay, now let's say you are going to, so to start with, you have initial is 1 MB. So let's say for for the simplicity, what I'm going to do, let's make it one mean extent. So let me just draw in another diagram. So what we have here is that we are saying that mean extent is 1 and max extent is say 5. Okay, and then we are going to say that we are also saying that initial parameter is 1 MB. That means whenever we're going to create this table T and then we insert some value, that time the first extent of 1 MB is allocated. So this is to start with. So during the first insert we have 1 MB is allocated, and assuming that 8 kilobyte is the size of your data block, so we have 1 MB divided by 8 KB. So whatever this value, okay, that many number of blocks, consecutive blocks are there. Okay, and then whenever we are going to insert into this table T, That means we are filling up this block depending upon your PCT free parameters and so on. So up to how much we are going to fill. Eventually we are going to fill this block, all this block, and let's say we've completely filled this extent of 1 MB. Then another parameter will come into play called next. If the next is 2 MB, in that case the next extent allocated will be of 2 MB, just double of whatever the first extent. Okay, then I'm going to still keep inserting data, and then I'm going to fill this thing. Then once I fill this second extent completely, okay, this is extent 1, this is extent 2, and all these things are called segment, a part of the table segment of whatever table T. So table T has a segment, and right now this extent is keep growing, right? So there are two questions, like if I'm still keep inserting, so till how long I can go. So till that is determined by two parameters. One is called max extent. That means in this case I'm going to allocate 5 more. So basically already 2 allocated, that means I can allocate 3 more. So what is the size of next extent E3? The size of next extent is going to determine by another parameter called PCT increase. If PCT increase is 10, that means the size of E3 will be 2 megabyte. What was the previous extent multiplied by 1.1, that is mean 10% increase. So 2 into 1.1, so therefore the next extent will be 2.2 MB. So this is 2.2 MB. So eventually if you are still keep inserting to this table T, you are going to fill up this extent. Then what is the size of extent E4? The size of extent E4 will be size of E3, that is 2.2 multiplied by 1.1, again 10% increase. So therefore E4 will be whatever this value. Then next one is E5. E5 size of E5 will be, so E4 is 2.2 multiplied by 1.1 multiplied by 1.1, 10% increase. So with this, once we fill this all this thing, then you cannot, because this is the max extent that you give, and after that if you try to do an insert, it will say that unable to allocate new extent. So this is the total size of the segment, is whatever this value is. So if my parameters are this, like mean extent, max extent, initial, next, and then PCT increase, then the total size of my segment will be addition of all this E1, E2, E3, E4 and E5. However, it's not guaranteed that we can really go to max extent. So remember that this segment is a part of the table space, right? So this segment is a part of table space. Table space is actually attached to a physical file. Let's say that physical file is 1.dbf. So 1.dbf is the physical file for this table space. Let's say this 1.dbf is like, since it's a file, so this must have a size. So whatever you have this extent, next extent or max extent and all those things, it doesn't matter if you reach this size of this file. That means, so basically as I told you, right, this segment will be part of this 1.dbf, right? You cannot go beyond the physical size of 1.dbf. Okay, so therefore the segment's maximum value is gated by the size of 1.dbf, and this is what is all about mean, max, initial, next. To be honest, starting from 10G, you don't really, these parameters just useless, because we use a concept called locally managed table space. So use a table using locally managed table space. In locally managed table space, initial is equal to next, and PCT increase is 0. Okay, so that means every time I'm going to create a new extent, that is going to be the size of the initial extent, because PCT increase is 0. Okay, so basically, maybe like, whatever I'm talking about next and PCT increase may be useless if you are using a locally managed table space. By the way, that is the default table management starting from Oracle 10G.